She sat quietly in her SUV until the cops searched her and found that badge. You don't expect much when dispatch sends you to check on a suspicious vehicle parked too long. Most of the time, it's someone sleeping off a night out or waiting on a DoorDash. Bored neighbors love to call things in when they've got nothing better to do. Officer Reuben Colby had learned that 10 years into the job. Still, he went. You always go. It was 8:42 p.m. on a Tuesday. Warm night, April. Right off Lincoln Avenue in Toledo, Ohio. A quiet complex with beige siding, fake stone balconies, and the occasional pit bull behind a sliding door. Colby turned onto the lot. His headlights caught the SUV instantly. A black Tahoe, parked under a busted light near the leasing office. It hadn't moved in hours, apparently. Windows tinted dark enough to block out the world. No hazards, no dome light, just sitting there like a question mark. Colby radioed in his location, unbuckled his seatbelt, and stepped out. He moved slow, not because he was nervous, more like cautious habit. You never knew what people might be hiding from, or hiding in their glove box. As he walked up, he noticed the car's engine was off, no movement inside. He tapped twice on the driver's window with his knuckle. Nothing. Then the window rolled down 2 inches, smooth and quiet. He bent slightly to speak. Evening? You all right in there? The woman inside met his eyes immediately. No panic, no stutter, just calm. Almost too calm. Good evening, officer. Yes, just taking notes. Her voice was measured, professional, like she had done this before. Colby nodded, eyeing the inside. Not much to see. No food containers, no alcohol, no visible bags or equipment. Just a notebook on her lap and a phone face down on the console. Can I see your license and registration? She reached over without hesitation. Her movements were slow, deliberate, like she was making sure he didn't feel threatened. That caught his attention. She handed him the ID. Talia Monroe, out-of-state license, registered to an address in Tempe, Arizona. Colby raised an eyebrow. You live in Ohio now, or just passing through? I'm on assignment. Temporary. He blinked. Assignment? I'm a researcher, security data analytics. I work with government contracts. She added it like it was rehearsed, probably because she's had to explain it before. It wasn't enough for him. Not yet. Too polished. Too still. Colby looked down at the notebook again, closed. He couldn't see what she was writing, and something about that bugged him more than it should have. Do you live in this building? He asked. No. Then why here? Why this parking lot? I needed a quiet spot with strong cell signal, she replied. I like to think without distractions. That's when his gut started talking. Not paranoia, just something. Something he'd learned to listen to when things looked too clean. I'm going to ask you to step out of the vehicle, Ms. Monroe. There was a pause. Not long, just long enough to matter. She blinked once, then unbuckled her seatbelt. Of course. She stepped out carefully, dressed in black slacks and a fitted blazer. Business casual, no jewelry. Her hair was in a bun, like she had somewhere important to be. She didn't look like someone killing time in a parking lot. She looked like someone trying not to be noticed. Colby gestured for her to stand near the front of the SUV while he radioed for backup, just in case. Nothing aggressive, but he wasn't going to be stupid about it either. As he waited, he glanced back at her. She wasn't tapping her foot, wasn't looking around nervously. She was just standing there, like she was expecting all of this. That's when his partner, Officer Brent Wallace, pulled up behind him, and the real tension began to creep in. But as Colby approached her again, something in her eyes made him hesitate. Just for a second, like she was waiting for him to make the wrong move. Officer Wallace approached, chewing gum like he always did when he was bored. He gave Talia a quick glance, then looked at Colby. What we got? Colby handed him the Arizona license. She says she's on assignment, works in security data or something like that, not local, no apartment here, just sitting in this lot. Wallace raised his eyebrows and looked her up and down, not even trying to hide the skepticism. This late? In a blazer? Come on. Colby didn't respond. He was watching her. Not her hands, not her stance. Her eyes. And her eyes weren't scared. They were focused. Too focused. Ma'am. Wallace stepped closer. Mind telling me exactly what kind of government work you're doing and why you're doing it here instead of, I don't know, Anywhere else? I don't mind, she said, but I can't give you the specifics. What I can say is that my work involves observing behavior patterns tied to regional networks. Physical locations give us critical context. Uh-huh, Wallace muttered. That's supposed to mean something to me? She gave a small shrug, almost apologetic. Probably not. That answer was enough to light Wallace's fuse. He stepped back and whispered to Colby. She's either full of it or hiding something. You want to run her name through the system? Already did, Colby said, pulling up the screen on his patrol tablet. No flags, no priors, licenses clean. She's not acting like a regular civvy. Nope. Colby turned to Talia again. I'm going to need to check the inside of your vehicle. She looked at him, still calm. On what grounds? You're in a private lot where you don't live, with no stated business after dark. You say you're doing government work, but haven't presented any proof of that. I've got enough to ask you to step back while we take a look. She didn't argue. She just sighed, quiet, almost like she was disappointed. Not scared, not frustrated, just tired. Back of the SUV is unlocked, she said. Everything else is locked. Wallace opened the back. It was clean. Clean in a way that made Colby more uneasy. 2 changes of clothes, a car charger, a bag of almonds, and a laptop bag with no visible tech. No trash, no receipts, no sign of life. Then Colby noticed the Velcro rectangle stuck to the side panel, like something had been removed. Did you have a tracker here? Her eyes narrowed for the first time, not in anger, in warning. I think you should stop now. Colby took a step back. That tone, it wasn't fear, it was something else, something that didn't belong to a civilian. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to place your hands on the hood. Talia looked at him for 3 full seconds, then turned and did exactly what he said. Wallace put on gloves and started a quick pat-down. That's when it happened. She spoke, not loud, not rushed, just clear. Left inside pocket. Wallace paused. She repeated, left inside pocket, carefully. Wallace reached in, and what he pulled out changed everything. It was a leather badge wallet. He opened it slowly. Gold seal, Department of Justice. Then the letters, FBI. Oh, hell, Wallace breathed. Colby stepped forward and took the badge. It felt heavier than it looked. His fingers pressed the seal like it would burn. Special Agent Talia Monroe, Organized Crime Division. She turned around slowly, looking Colby straight in the face. You just compromised a 6-month federal investigation. But she didn't yell. She didn't threaten. She just let the silence carry the weight, and that made it worse. Officer Wallace took a full step back like he'd just grabbed a live wire. He stared at the badge, then back at her. You're FBI? He asked, still holding it like it might explode. Talia Monroe didn't move. Yes, and I need that back. Colby handed it over, but he couldn't stop staring. Organized crime? She tucked the badge away and adjusted her blazer, calm as ever. Yes, embedded assignment, long-term surveillance. Wallace scoffed. Surveilling what? In a parking lot in Toledo? Talia tilted her head like she was weighing how much rope to give them. I'm watching a known associate of an arms trafficker who launders money through real estate fronts, she said. That beige building over there, Unit 3B? The guy who moved in 6 weeks ago? Name's not real, identity's not real, but he's real and dangerous. Colby blinked. His mouth felt dry. This wasn't just someone overthinking their job. This was real. How dangerous are we talking? He asked. She turned toward the complex, voice lower now. Enough that I've got a panic phrase built into my check-ins. Enough that if he saw you two search me tonight, he might already be trying to cover his tracks. Wallace put his hands on his hips. This is insane. You should have told us. Flashed your badge the second we got here. No, she said firmly, because I didn't know if you were going to blow my cover or help protect it. That hit hard. Colby felt it in his chest. She hadn't said it like an insult, more like a truth she was tired of repeating. Agent Monroe, he said, tone shifting now, we're not here to make your job harder, but this is a bad spot to be playing guessing games. I wasn't playing, she said. Until 2 minutes ago, I was invisible. Now I'm not. That changes everything. Colby looked back toward the apartment building. A single light was on in Unit 3B, curtains drawn, no movement. But now he was wondering, had they already been seen? You think he saw us approach you? He asked. Talia paused. Maybe, maybe not, but I guarantee he's got motion cameras in the lot. My Tahoe's parked right in his sightline on purpose. I built trust. I made myself boring. Until now. Wallace kicked the gravel near the curb. So what happens now? She opened her passenger door and pulled out a slim black case. Inside was a sat phone, a secure tablet, and a small pistol in a holster. All registered, all clean. I need to contact my SAC, she said. That's my special agent in charge. He'll assess whether we need to move early or salvage what's left. Colby nodded, but something was twisting inside him. Guilt, frustration, or maybe the creeping sense that they'd just stepped into something way above their pay grade. You should have had someone watching your six, Wallace muttered. I did, she replied sharply. Until last week, when they pulled my backup due to budget reshuffling. That's why I was alone tonight. There was silence after that. Heavy, uncomfortable silence. Colby took a slow breath. What do you need from us right now? She looked at him for the first time like he was useful. I need you to not panic, not go knocking on any doors, and definitely don't alert the guy in 3B that anything's changed. He nodded. And what are you going to do? She tapped her tablet. I'm going to warn my SAC that we've got a problem. And if I'm right, we don't have much time before that problem moves. Wallace stepped away, rubbing the back of his neck. I just thought we were checking on someone scrolling TikTok. Colby didn't say anything. He was staring at the apartment again. The porch light was off now. Had it been on before? Agent Monroe, he said quietly, what happens if this guy runs? She looked up from her tablet. Then you'll get to see exactly what I was trying to stop. But before Colby could ask what that meant, her sat phone buzzed, and the message flashing across the screen made her eyes go sharp, like a wire had just snapped inside her. Talia's thumb hovered over the sat phone screen, then she tapped it and held it to her ear. Yeah, this is Monroe. Go. Colby and Wallace stood nearby, silent, waiting. She listened. Eyes didn't blink, no wasted movement, just sharp breaths and sharper focus. Who saw it? She asked. Pause. Was it from the north cam or the west? Another pause. Colby glanced at Wallace. Wallace mouthed, what the hell is happening? Talia kept listening. Her tone shifted, lower, tense. How long ago? Silence. Understood. She ended the call, slid the phone into her coat, and turned to them. Her voice was clipped. No room for argument now. We've got a breach. They saw you two walk up. Facial recognition tagged your patrol car the second you pulled in. Colby's stomach dropped. You said it was one guy. It was, she said. Until tonight. He's not alone. I've been suspecting for weeks he was a courier. Turns out he's also a coordinator. And tonight, he was expecting a drop. Wallace stepped forward. Wait, you're telling us we walked into an arms deal? In a parking lot behind a damn leasing office? Talia didn't answer right away. She looked down the row of buildings, her jaw tense now. I was supposed to confirm the contact, record the handoff, get a photo ID. But now? She looked at them both. Now it's likely scrubbed. They'll pull out before sunrise. Colby scratched his temple. So what? They're packing up weapons? Drugs? Talia shook her head. Encrypted laptops, buyer lists, payment chains, and proof of supply lines going back to East St. Louis. We were this close to pulling down a whole regional ring, and now we're lucky if we can keep the tail end. Wallace sighed. Damn. Talia stepped closer to Colby. Her voice dropped, this time quieter, more urgent. You didn't screw this up on purpose. I get that, but I need you to understand something. He nodded, ready to hear it. There are people in that unit right now who will disappear by morning. And the ones who replace them? She leaned in. They won't be doing surveillance. They'll be tying up loose ends. Colby felt the blood leave his face. He thought about the families living nearby, kids, teachers, nurses, all unknowingly sitting on top of something dangerous. Wallace crossed his arms. So what do we do? You calling in a task force? Talia hesitated. Not yet. They'll scatter if we come in loud. Right now, we try to contain movement. I've got one surveillance van still on rotation. I'll call them in. Then her eyes flicked toward the sidewalk. A man was walking a dog across the parking lot. Just a neighbor, nothing out of the ordinary, except for the quick glance he threw toward Talia. Not the officers, her. Talia's hand moved slightly toward her blazer. Colby tensed. "You know him?" She didn't answer. Instead, she whispered, "Don't react. He wasn't here before. He just appeared." Wallace glanced over, but too late. The man and the dog were already walking behind the building. Talia pulled her sat phone again, dialed fast, walked toward the Tahoe as she spoke. Colby followed. "Was that him?" "Could be. Could also be someone signaling that they've already dumped the evidence. Either way, I'm not waiting for confirmation." She opened her SUV door and popped the center console, pulled out a photo. Black and white, grainy, surveillance. The man with the dog, same profile. "I knew that face," she said, pressing it into Colby's hands. "That man is suspected of transporting encrypted drives from one city to another. Each one contains client data for illegal sales." Wallace stepped in, eyes wide. "So what happens if he leaves right now?" Talia looked back toward the road. "If he leaves and we don't stop him, the entire operation resets. Everyone goes underground. People die." But before she could finish her sentence, the faint sound of tires screeching echoed from the far side of the lot. And when they turned, the man and the dog were gone. Just a single set of taillights vanishing into the dark. Colby jumped into his cruiser. "Plate?" Talia was already sprinting to her Tahoe. "No plate. That car was clean." Wallace stood frozen for half a second, then snapped back into motion, radioing for other units in the area. "We need eyes at all eastbound exits. Black sedan, no tags, driver may be armed. Possible suspect fleeing scene tied to a federal investigation. Do not engage, just follow." He looked at Colby. This just got real. Talia was already pulling out of the lot. "I'm not losing him," she said through her rolled-down window. Colby hit the sirens and followed. They trailed her for 8 blocks, the city rolling past in a blur of red lights, potholes, and confused drivers. Talia didn't run red lights recklessly. She calculated her moves like someone who'd done this more times than she could count. Then came the call. Colby's radio crackled. "Unit 4, be advised. Suspect vehicle last seen merging onto I-280, southbound. No visual beyond the on-ramp." He cursed under his breath. Talia pulled into a gas station and killed the engine. Colby stopped beside her and got out. "He's gone?" he asked. She didn't look at him right away. She just stared ahead at the quiet road, her fingers twitching like she wanted to hit something. Then she stepped out. "Gone. And I guarantee the unit's being cleared as we speak. Laptops, documents, flash drives. Everything's probably in a landfill or fire barrel by now." Colby leaned on the hood of his car. "We tried. You didn't see him coming." "That's the thing," she said. "I did. I knew there was a hole in coverage. I flagged it last week. My backup was removed before I could patch it." Wallace pulled up behind them, got out, and joined the silence. The air felt different now, heavier. "So what now?" he asked. "You regroup?" Talia let out a breath that had been sitting in her chest too long. "Now I file a failure report. I go back to Quantico, sit through a post-mortem, and listen to people who've never been in the field tell me what I should have done better." Colby frowned. "That's it?" "No," she said, looking at both of them. "Then I do it all over again. Different city, different alias, different risk." Wallace shook his head. "Why keep doing it?" Her expression changed. Not sad, not angry, just firm. "Because if we don't, the people who do this kind of trafficking win. Every time. They'll keep trading weapons, bodies, identities, like none of it matters, like no one's watching." There was a pause. Colby didn't know what to say. He'd never seen a federal agent so close to the edge of burning out. But she wasn't unraveling. She was holding on tighter. Then she turned to him. "And you? You walked up because someone called me in. You didn't know what I was. You did your job." He started to speak, but she cut him off. "But next time, ask why someone looks out of place before you act like they don't belong. Not everyone sitting in a car after dark is doing something wrong. Some of us are doing something right." That hit harder than anything she'd said all night. Colby nodded slowly. "I hear you." Wallace scratched his head. "So what do we say in the report?" Talia gave a thin smile. Say the subject was gone before you could make contact. Say you checked on a parked vehicle and found nothing. Keep it clean. Colby raised an eyebrow. You want us to lie? No, she said. I want you to keep the door open for the next time we try to take these people down. And believe me, there will be a next time. She got back into her Tahoe, engine humming low. You two didn't ruin this, she said through the open window. But tonight was a reminder. Not everyone who looks like a threat is one, and not every threat wears a mask. Then she drove off. No sirens, no rush, just a slow fade into the night. But as she disappeared down the street, Colby was left standing under that cheap gas station light, wondering what else he'd missed over the years, and who else he'd judged too fast. Colby didn't go home that night. He parked 2 blocks from the complex and sat there with the engine off, windows cracked just enough to hear the city hum. He wasn't on shift anymore, wasn't clocked in, but something wouldn't let him leave. Maybe it was the way she looked at him when she said, "Next time, ask why." Maybe it was knowing they'd interrupted something bigger than either of them could fix. Or maybe it was guilt. The building was quiet now. No lights in Unit 3B, no dog walkers, no reason to think anything was still happening there. The crime scene was digital, wiped clean before anyone even knew to call it one. Wallace had gone home after filing a nothing report. We saw a woman in a vehicle. She was compliant. No violations. End of story. Talia's name didn't appear once, but Colby couldn't shake it. His thoughts kept cycling. What if he hadn't radioed for backup so fast? What if he'd asked better questions? What if... Then a car pulled into the lot. Not Talia's, not the black sedan either. It was a white hatchback, older model, dented bumper, pulled into the spot next to where the Tahoe had been. Parked. Headlights off. A guy stepped out. Tall, hoodie up, cargo pants. Looked around like he wasn't sure he was in the right place. Then opened the passenger door and pulled out a duffel bag. Colby sat up. The man didn't go into the building. He walked around the side, toward the dumpster. Colby got out of his car, stayed in the shadow of a tree. No uniform, just a hoodie of his own now, civilian watch. The man tossed the bag behind the dumpster, not in it, behind it. Then jogged back to his car and drove off like he didn't want to be seen. Colby waited 30 seconds, then walked over. The bag was heavy. He unzipped it just enough to peek. Laptops, 3 of them, no stickers, no branding, no power cords. And in a side pocket, 4 USB drives taped together. He zipped it shut again, heart pounding. He could call it in. He should call it in. But what if that flagged everything again? What if Talia's op was still salvageable, and blowing the whistle now erased what little ground was left? He called the one number he wasn't supposed to still have. She picked up on the second ring. "You're not supposed to contact me," she said. Yeah, he replied. "But I think you missed something." Silence. Then, "Go on." He described the car, the man, the bag, everything. "Still at the scene?" she asked. "Yes." "Stay put. Don't touch anything else. I'll have someone there in 12 minutes. Click. 12 minutes later, a gray van rolled in. Unmarked. No lights, no uniforms. Just 2 people in black windbreakers who moved like they'd done this too many times before. They didn't talk to Colby, didn't ask who he was. Just took the bag, nodded once, and left. No paperwork, no signature, no thank you. Colby didn't expect one, but he did expect her. And sure enough, 5 minutes after the van disappeared, Talia's Tahoe pulled up again. She stepped out, looked at the empty parking space like it had betrayed her, then walked to Colby. "You were still watching," she said. "I couldn't leave." She nodded once. "That was a dump point," she said. "They used it for bad runs. If the drop went sideways, someone would circle back hours later and dispose of the hardware." "So those laptops? They were evidence?" "They are evidence," she said, "and you just saved more than you know." Colby looked at her for a long second. "You're going to make it stick this time?" She didn't smile, but something softened. "We might." But before she could say more, her phone lit up again. And when she saw the name on the screen, her expression hardened. Something else had gone wrong. Talia didn't answer the call right away. She stared at the name on the screen like it held more weight than the phone itself. Then, almost reluctantly, she picked up. "This is Monroe." Colby couldn't hear the voice on the other end, but he didn't need to. Her face told him enough, jaw clenched, eyes narrowing, shoulders locking up again, like armor snapping back into place. "Understood," she said. Then she hung up. "What happened?" he asked. She turned to him. The drop was only part of it. He wasn't just a courier. He was the signal. That bag behind the dumpster? That was a message to the next player. Colby's stomach turned. A message? To run, to reset, and to warn anyone connected. Law enforcement got too close. He exhaled through his nose, frustrated. "So it's not over." "No," she said. "It's just harder now." She walked a few steps away, hands in her pockets. Then she turned and looked at him again, something quieter in her voice this time. "You know what messes us up the most in this job?" Colby tilted his head. "It's not the evil people," she said. "It's the ones who look normal. It's the fact that danger doesn't dress like danger anymore. Sometimes it's a guy with a golden retriever. Sometimes it's a woman with a clipboard. Sometimes it's a clean-cut guy calling in a suspicious person because someone doesn't fit the neighborhood." She took a breath. "I've worn a fake life for 6 months, been followed, been targeted. I've lost sleep, lost colleagues. And in all that time, not once was I stopped by the people I'm actually investigating. You know who stopped me?" Colby swallowed. "Us." She nodded. "I get it. You didn't know. You were responding to a call. You followed protocol, but you assumed I didn't belong. That's what started this." He nodded slowly. "Yeah, I did." They stood there a moment, two people who'd both been right in their own way and wrong in another. Talia stepped closer. "I'm not asking you to feel guilty. I'm asking you to remember this the next time you see someone who doesn't fit the scene. Ask yourself if it's because they're a threat or just because you can't explain them." Colby didn't look away. "I will." She gave a slight nod, then turned back toward her SUV. The wind picked up, tossing a fast food wrapper across the lot. A regular night in a regular city. But now Colby knew better. He watched her pull away again. No flashing lights, no parade, just another ghost disappearing into the system. As he stood there alone, the truth sat heavy on his shoulders. They hadn't just blown a federal operation. They'd blown a chance to see someone clearly before they judged her. And in that misstep, damage had been done. Some of it fixable, some of it not. But the lesson was simple. You don't have to see a badge to respect someone's presence. You don't have to know someone's job to give them space. And just because someone doesn't look right to you, doesn't mean they're doing wrong. Maybe if more of us paused long enough to ask better questions, we wouldn't need to learn these lessons the hard way. If this story made you think, good, because that's the point. We all have blind spots, but we can choose what we do with them. So next time you feel the urge to judge someone too fast, pause, ask, think, and maybe the world becomes just a little less broken. If this story hit home, share it, start a conversation, and make sure someone else doesn't learn this lesson too late.